Krishna, Haribol, Haribol. My Dandavat pranams to everybody, Haribol. Today is the 9th of January, Friday, 2025. And we're reading from Madhya-lila chapter 4, starting on verse 78. But today is the disappearance day of Jayadev Goswami. Is it the disappearance or appearance? Disappearance. Tirava of Jayadev Goswami. So we'll discuss something about him. But to begin with, we'll chant some mantras. You can confirm with me that Facebook's coming out all right, because it looks like the screen's getting a little blurred or something. I don't know what it is. Is Facebook okay? Rasmanjari, is Facebook okay?
Checking. Checking.
Agyan timirandasya gyananjala shalakaya chakshu unmilitam jena tasmai shri guruve namaha. Guruve Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Sri Caitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajavi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhuveka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavala Sarupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunabharti Nokalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujjvala Rasam Swa Bhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatam Vasadivita Sada Hridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunabharti Nokalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujjvala Rasam Swa Bhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatam Vasadivita Sada Hridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha. Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Petiprityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tam Matayotarava Vinedustam Sarvabhutam Hridin Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadithangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarabindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharatram Tato Namanasti Katyena Kapi Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Chanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Madhya-lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Madhya-lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my Sastang Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our dearmost, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and all our Rupanuga Guru Varg, and all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavnivyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So today is a very auspicious day, the Tirabhav of Jayadev Goswami, a great poet from the 12th century, I think, or 13th. Sometimes it's given 9th century, that era. So Jayadev Goswami was a great Vaishnava personality and a great mystic personality. And he composed this most beautiful prayer, this Gita Govinda. And in Gita Govinda, practically for the first time, the separation moods between Radha and Krishna are being written and sung. And this Gita Govinda was so attractive that Jagannath Dev in Puri would run to listen to the recitation of this by the Devi Dasis. And once he was running, and he was late back to get to the temple, and he tore his cloth. And the king was very disturbed and was ready to punish anybody, because Jagannath Dev wears new cloth every day. He doesn't have a washerman, he only wears new cloth. So his cloth was torn. But Jagannath Dev came in his dream and indicated that he had been entranced by listening to the beautiful recitation of Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda by the Devi Dasis. So then that king, I'm not sure if it was Prataparudra or not, maybe his father, Purushottam, he declared that every day, twice a day, this beautiful prayer by Jayadev Goswami of Gita Govinda. But in this prayer, there's the famous verse, Smarakarala Kandanam Mama Sirasi Mandanam Dehi Patapalabam Udaram. This verse where directly, I'll read you the translation directly. So, Shri Radhika, Krishna is saying, "O Srimati Radhika, I am burning in the fire of Cupid, amorous desires. Please be merciful to me and decorate my head with your munificent lotus feet and relieve me from this condition." So in other words, Krishna, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, is surrendering to his Shakti, Sri Radhika. Now, Jayadev Goswami, because he was so much prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had not understood the precepts of this Parakiya Bhav, because Mahaprabhu had not manifested these teachings. He had not clearly spoken these teachings. These teachings, as we said yesterday and many times previously, were already in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4,000-5,000 years ago. But who could actually understand that Krishna is being submissive to Sri Radhika? That Supreme Personality of God, it is being controlled by his Shakti. So this is a very delicate, sensitive topic to understand fully in the heart. And Jayadev Goswami was not able, he didn't have the adhikar to understand this. He hadn't had the teachings. So he couldn't write this verse. He couldn't write this appeal by Krishna to Radhika to decorate his head with her lotus feet, to dispel the heat and pain of his separation mood. He couldn't write this. So that, and then he went out to take his bath, telling his wife Padmavati that he was going to the Ganga. This was when he was living in Champahati. Champahati is near Navadvip, and this was where he had his kutia, his bhajan kutia, before he went to Jagannath Puri itself. And this is where he was writing this Gita Govinda initially. And then he returns from the Ganga about 40-50 minutes later, and his wife said, "Oh, but you just went out and now you've come back again." And then he was surprised by this. He thought he'd been away for about 40 minutes or so, but Padmavati was saying, no, you just came. And you asked for your book, the book where you were writing this Gita Govinda. And Jayadev Goswami immediately went to the text and saw in beautiful red script that this verse, Smaragarala Kandanam, Mama Sirasi Mandanam, was written in Krishna's hand. He couldn't write the verse, this is the point. He couldn't write that Radhika was decorating the forehead of Krishna with her lotus feet. He couldn't comprehend this. This wasn't within his ability, even though he had written the most beautiful pastime lila of Radhika in one kunj and Krishna in another kunj, and they're both lamenting and they both can't meet each other due to the circumstance and the man of Sri Radhika. It's the most beautiful, glorious book. And my Gurudev was very, very generous, because he knew there were so many editions of this Gita Govinda in the market. So many people have written commentaries, etc. on this, but my Gurudev wanted to express his own appreciation for this Gita Govinda and give the Gaudiya Siddhantic commentary on it. So he's written a very beautiful commentary on this, which we've had for a number of years, and it's in so many devotees' houses they can appreciate it. We don't speak generally on this publicly. It's not a public forum type of literature. It's a literature for our internal meditation and reflection. But my Gurudev has given a small commentary on this verse, and I wanted to read this in glorification of Jayadeva Goswami today. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj says, Sri Krishna is praying, Radha, my suffering will be vanquished only when you accept me. I am overwhelmed by a spurti of your all-conquering qualities. And I pray to you to kindly place your feet, which are soft like freshly sprouted buds, upon my head. Your lotus feet are munificent. They fulfill the innermost cherished desires of those who pray to them. You are the ornaments because they are the ornaments because they are red, soft and cool like new petals. If you were to place them upon my head would be decorated, and simultaneously the poisonous effect of calm would be counteracted. So Krishna is in this extreme suffering mood of vipralamba, separation from Radhika, and he's praying like this. But this verse was coming in Jayadeva Goswami's heart, but he couldn't write it. Understand? He couldn't enunciate it. It was too much for him to come to think that his Supreme Lord, his Ishtadev is Krishna, Brajendranandan Sham Sundar Krishna, not Radhika. So he couldn't write this verse. So Krishna himself came and wrote it. So we remember this pastime when we think of Jayadeva Goswami. Every year we go on our Navadvip Parikrama to Champahati, and we sing the beautiful bhajans to Jayadeva Goswami. So he worked in, had service for the Lakshman Sen, I think was in Navadvip, was the principal capital at that time. Then he lived for some years, and then he went to Puri, where he served Lord Jagannath in Puri with this beautiful prayer, this Gita Govinda. So we're remembering Jayadeva Goswami. Actually today there's a festival commemorating his disappearance day in Kenduli, which is in Birbhum, which is west of Navadvip, about an hour and a half drive, almost 50, 60, 70 kilometers. And it's a whole village which celebrates, Kenduli celebrates the birthplace of Jayadeva Goswami. And they have a festival, they set up whole pandals everywhere, and thousands of people come and queue to have darshan of a very beautiful deity of Jayadeva Goswami and Padmavati. So in that village, it's a wonderful place to go on this particular day. So Jayadeva Goswami ki jai, go Pranandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now we're coming back to our ecstatic pastime of Madhavendra Puripad. So Madhavendra Puri has performed, we described yesterday, first of all the Abhishek with so many pots of water, etc. And the Brahmanas had performed such artis and so on. Oh, and then the food grains, the Annakut festival is being described very elaborately. And then huge quantities of chapatis, which is covered in ghee, etc. and rice and dal and vegetables. So all of this wonderful festival is being painted by the brush of Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami in his writing here. In this way the Annakut ceremony was performed, and Sri Madhavendra Puri Goswami personally offered everything to Gopal. So we were commenting on the personal nature of Madhavendra Puri and conducting all the activities himself directly. This is his Gopal, completely. He's completely fixed on Gopal, nothing else. He would fast all day and in the evening just take a little bit milk preparation, something like that. But very renounced personality. He was renounced because of his attraction to Krishna. He wasn't renounced like a yogi. He was renounced in his attraction to Krishna, didn't want to waste any time separate from his focus on Krishna. So then we discussed how Gopal ate everything while the food remained the same. That's verse 78. Are we up to 78?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start from verse 78 today.
Ihanubhava kaila madhava gosai tar thai gopalera lokana kichu nai.
How Gopal ate everything while the food remained the same was transcendently perceived by Madhavendra Puri Goswami. Nothing remains a secret to the devotees of the Lord. So this is what I was commenting on, that Madhavendra Puri was so engrossed in his seva to the Lord. Every moment he was only thinking of the welfare of Gopal. So he was aware of Gopal taking everything and then returning everything as his remnants. He was fully aware of this. So text 79.
Ekadin ruddhage che mahotsav kaila gopal prabhage haya anyana janila.
The wonderful festival and installation of Sri Gopalji was arranged in one day. Certainly all this was accomplished by the potency of Gopal. No one but a devotee can understand this. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement has spread all over the world within a very short time. Sit down, don't make disturbance. The Krishna consciousness movement has spread all over the world within a very short time, within 5 years. And mundane people are very much astonished at this. However, by the grace of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that everything is possible by the grace of Krishna. Why does Krishna have to take 5 years? In 5 days, he can spread his name and fame all over the world like wildfire. Those who have faith in and devotion to Krishna can understand that these things happen so wonderfully by the grace of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. We are simply the instruments. In the fierce battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was victorious within 18 days simply because Krishna's grace was on his side. So we know the immensity of the armies in this battle. 640 million people were slain in that battle. So that's a huge amount of people. And in 18 days, Krishna arranged for all of those people to be slaughtered. So this verse, go ahead.
Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Shri Vijayor Bhuti Dhruva Nitirmatir Mama.
Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is comparing this extraordinary feat to Madhavendra Puri's elaborate festival for Gopal. So much has happened actually. We've spoken about it briefly, but the actual festival, including the whole village, was very joyous, etc. And they did so much cooking. I explained yesterday, we talked about it. Just like we've experienced in our various festivals of Janmashtami and Gorpanim time, when all the devotees come together, they all do so many preparations and cooking and chanting and devotional activities. So like this, everyone got caught up in the mood by Madhavendra Puri's potency. If the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement are sincere devotees of Krishna, Krishna will always be with them because he is very kind and favorable to all his devotees. Just as Arjuna and Krishna were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra, this Krishna consciousness movement will surely emerge victorious if we but remain sincere devotees of the Lord and serve the Lord according to the advice of the predecessor, the 6 Goswamis, and other devotees of the Lord. So following carefully will only lead to success. If we're following Krishna's words, shastric injunctions clearly, it can only be victorious. As Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Tadare Charana Seva Bhakti Sane Ravas, Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilas. The Krishna consciousness devotees must always desire to remain in the society of devotees, Bhakta Sane Vas. They can go outside the Krishna consciousness society or movement. They cannot go outside the Krishna consciousness society or movement. Within the society, we must try to serve the predecessors by chanting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult and spreading his name and fame all over the world. If we attempt this seriously within the society, it will be successfully done. There is no question of estimating how this will happen in the mundane sense, but without a doubt, it happens by the grace of Krishna. So this is very much supporting the group dynamic, we can say, of being in a large group. But being in a large group also has its setbacks in this age. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was actually not in favor of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati beginning the mutt constructions, etc. He said, when you leave, there will be great problems and difficulties. People will become attached and ownership problems will arise. And that's exactly what did happen. We see how the original Gaudiya Mutt, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left, was torn apart by material desires of the devotees. But at the same time, there is so much strength to be gained from living close proximity with the devotees in a mutt environment. But again, if the devotees are older, perhaps, and they've understood the necessities for the various timings for their sadhana bhajan, and they're able to do it separately, then a few devotees living separately, I don't think that will be a problem for their bhakti. I don't think their bhakti will be in any way restricted. Srila Bhakti Rakshakshriya Maharaj has said that to do bhajan we only need 3 or 4 like-minded devotees to associate with. So this was his opinion. So, and Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he said that we follow that path of where there is love and attraction. If we're feeling that love and attraction, then we will remain in that place. But if that is vacant, then how can the devotee remain in such a situation and expect his bhakti, which is only principled on love, will flourish? How can we expect that? It won't happen. So I think we have to consider deeply the situations that we're in and whether they're conducive for the growth and development of our bhakti. And that will be always based on the loving relationships with the devotees. If the devotees are, because this is Kali Yuga, we're in the dense grip of Kali Yuga, and devotees tend to, at different times, become distracted, and their minds become distracted, and arguments, etc., arise. And if it's not tolerable, if it's not going to be conducive, it's no good living in a mutt and you're arguing all day long for years and years and years. What's the benefit with that? How can that flourish your bhakti? So sometimes that's the case. Not always, of course, but sometimes that's the case. So we have to consider our own situations. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in these commentaries, in many places, he's telling the grihastas how they can live favorably outside of the temples, how they can perform their arti in the morning, their arti in the evening, how can they distribute prasadam, etc., have programs, worship Thakurji, and do so many things in their households, and then invite traveling preachers, etc., sannyasis, etc., to give programs in their house. And in that way, the Krishna consciousness mindset will flourish, will develop organically on a ground level, so to speak. But if it's too divorced from the public, then it's not going to integrate sufficiently. If it's too much placed on a pinnacle just in the temple, if only in the temple, devotees were thinking only the temple devotees have access to Krishna. That's not true. I will never subscribe to that. There are so many devotees historically. In the times of Jaivadama, for example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes all the devotees living in separate places. There's the Gojran devotees, the Kulyagram devotees, all different devotees in different places, and they would meet spontaneously according to their desires to meet with each other. It wasn't so much structured. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says very clearly that Bhakti Devi cannot flourish in an institutional environment. And when you start to have a very large institution, how does an institution flourish? It must have control. And how are you going to make that control? By fear, generally, unless you are a pure devotee and you can demonstrate pure love and affection. So pure devotees, when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was on the planet, that society flourished magnificently. When my Gurudev was on the planet, his Sangha was also flourishing magnificently. But again, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has written, if there's an institution without a Mahabhagavat at the head, it's no better than a society of drunks. In other words, they will be intoxicated by some form of material attraction. And they will try to develop various sensual ideas to satisfy their desires. And all the devotees will become caught up in that. And it won't be Shuddha Bhakti that they're practicing, unless it's very much purified. And who can purify except a Mahabhagavat, pure devotee? So for them, the life is perfect situation to congregate all the devotees and to give the teachings very clearly. But when they leave and there's no pure devotee to replace them immediately, then it can become quite distorted and my Gurudev used to say, derailed from the pure path that the acharyas have chalked out for us. So I'm just commenting on this purport that Bhaktivedanta Swami has written in time, place and circumstance. He's written this in about 1973, and he wants all his devotees to be a cohesive group so that he can give the abundance of his wealth of knowledge to a large group of devotees, which he did. Inspire them for the rest of their lives. But that doesn't mean that that society is going to run on successfully necessarily without the Mahabhagavat. So, text 80. This is a lengthy discussion. Everyone will have their own opinions, etc. And from their own experiences and understanding these shastras. Everyone understands. The shastra is one, but individuals will appreciate it in different ways. We have an expression in English when you read the newspaper. Some will read it black and some will read it white. So there's a distinction how our individuality will flourish, because without our individuality flourishing, how can the conclusion be successful? We are individual souls. That individuality has to come out, but in a group situation, many times it's jammed together to try to make it all one. Like society at large, they try to program us through our cell phones. Everyone should walk this path, etc., etc. There's not much. They call you an eccentric, or they ostracize you, or they push you away if you're not falling in line with everybody else. So that's the way general society will coerce everyone to be like the same, erode their individuality. But our individuality is very important in our connection with Krishna. He only wants to see that. So many thoughts on this topic, but I'll leave it there. So text 80.
Achmana diya dila vidaka sanjaya arati karila loke kare jaya jaya.
Sri Madhavendra Puri offered water to Gopal for washing his mouth and gave him betel nuts to chew. Then, while Arati was performed, all the people chanted, Jai, Jai, all glories to Gopal. Jai means victory, victory, victory. Victory over what? Victory over the material energy. Come to the higher spiritual focus. Text 81.
Saya karaila nutana khata anaya Nava vastrani tara upare patiya.
Arranging for the Lord's rest, Sri Madhavendra Puri bought a new cot, and over this he spread a new bed sheet, and thus made the bed ready. So it's Madhavendra Puri who's doing all of this. Madhavendra Puri directly, his own hand, he's not delegating. He's doing it himself out of his great, great love and affection. Text 82.
Trinatati diya chari dika avarila Uparate katati diya chalila.
A temporary temple was constructed by covering the bed all around with a straw mattress. Thus there was a bed and a straw mattress to cover it. Text 83.
Puri gosai agya dila sakala brahmane Abala vriddha gamera loka karaha bhojane.
After the Lord was laid down to rest on the bed, Madhavendra Puri gathered all the brahmanas who had prepared the prasadam and said to them, "Now feed everyone sumptuously, from the children up to the aged, on up to the aged." So everyone had to be fed. This was Madhavendra Puri's directive. Text 84.
Sabevasi krame krame bhojana karila Brahmana brahmani gane age khao yaila.
All the people gathered there sat down to honor prasadam, and by they took food. All the brahmanas and their wives were fed first. Purport. According to the Varnashram system, the brahmanas are always honored first. Thus, at the festival, the brahmanas and their wives were first offered the remnants of food, and then others, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, etc., and Sudras. This has all been the system, and it is still prevalent in India. Even though the caste brahmanas are not qualified, the system is still current due to the Varnashram institutional rules and regulations. So this runs through the society of India. It's very fortifying. It's dharma. They are following their traditional dharmic requirements in their lives, and it's very favorable. But we should be cautious that we don't neglect the general people. I can remember being at a festival in Navadvip, and the devotees decided, we'll feed all the Brahmins and the devotees first, and we'll leave all the general people just to watch the devotees eating. It was so uncomfortable. And in the end, one very vocal general person, local person, had a huge argument with everybody. Well, why aren't you feeding all the children and women? So sometimes it's uncomfortable. We have to be a little bit smart, a little bit realistic. And it's customary, as is described here. And Madhavendra Puri is saying that the wives should be fed, the Brahmins and their wives should be fed first, and the children, etc., also should be fed. Otherwise they'll be restless. So we have to be a little bit intelligent here. Text 85.
Anya gramera loka yata dekhite aila Gopala dekhiya sab prasad khaila.
Those who took prasadam included not only the people of Govardhan village, but also those who came from other villages. They also saw the deity of Gopal and were offered prasadam to eat. Text 86.
Dekhiya purira prabhav loke chamatkara Purvanna kutayena haila satsatkara.
Seeing the influence of Madhavendra Puri, all the people gathered there were struck with wonder. They saw that the Anakut ceremony, which had been performed before during the time of Krishna, was now taking place again by the mercy of Madhavendra Puri. So this Anakut festival hadn't been performed for a long time. Krishna performed this in Anayor originally. Anayor, yes, this original festival was performed, and now by Madhavendra Puri's mercy this was going on again. Purport. Formerly, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, all the cowherd men of Vrindavan had arranged to worship Krishna, Indra, but they gave this worship up arranged to worship King Indra. But they gave this worship up following the advice of Krishna. Instead, they performed a ceremony whereby they worshipped the cows, Brahmins, and Govardhan Hill. At that time, Krishna expanded himself and declared, I am Govardhan Hill. In this way, he accepted all the paraphernalia and food offered to Govardhan Hill. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 24, 26, 31 to 33.
Pacyantam vividha paka supanta payasadayah sanyava pupasashukulya sarvadohascha guhyatam kalatmana bhagavata shukra darpajingan shata prokam nim samyanandadya sadva gruhyanta tatvachaha tatha cha vyadatu sarva yatha madhusudana vachayitya swastyayanannam taddravyena giridvijana upahitya balina sarvan adatayavasam gavam kodanani puraskritya girim chakru pradakshinam.
Prepare very nice foods of all descriptions from the grains and ghee collected for the yajna. Prepare rice, dal, then halwa, pakora, puri, and all kinds of milk preparations like sweet rice, sweet balls, sandesh, rasgulla, and laddu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna therefore advised the cowherd men to stop the Indra yajna and began the Govardhan Puja to chastise Indra, who was very much puffed up at being the supreme controller of the heavenly planets. The honest and simple cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, accepted Krishna's proposal and executed in detail everything he advised. They performed Govardhan worship and circumambulated the hill. According to the instructions of Lord Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men called in learned brahmanas and began to worship Govardhan Hill by chanting Vedic hymns and offering prasadam. The inhabitants of Vrindavan assembled together, decorated their cows and gave them grass. Keeping the cows in front of them, they began to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. And it's described in Ananda Vrindavan Champur when they were circumambulating Govardhan Hill in great festivity with great song and dancing. It gave Indra a headache in Swagaloka. He got a headache from listening to the happiness of the Brijvasis. He became incensed by their neglect of him. But this is like any person, any situation, when someone gets some type of authority, like we've just been describing in the mats. If the Mahabhagavat is the ultimate authority, everything can be completely successful. But if the ultimate authority is not a Mahabhagavat, then that means they still have some remnant of material desires. So those desires will filter down, and they will naturally become proud of a position, just like Indra is proud of his position as being the controller. And from that pride, then so many anomalies can come from the directives of that person. So it's not necessarily always going to be flourishing on track. In the personal sense of it, they may be doing all the externals, but if it's not happening internally, then there's going to be no development of affection and love for each other. So how will it flourish? If we're in some sort of competition or envy with each other, how is that possibly going to be successful for bhakti to flourish? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, Bhakti Devi cannot flourish in an institutional environment. Just wanted to throw that. Okay, text 87.
Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Sri Seva Madhya Sabaniyo Jila.
All the brahmanas present on that occasion were initiated by Sri Madhavendra Puri into the Vaishnava cult, and Madhavendra Puri engaged them in different types of services. Understand, Madhavendra Puri was just doing solitary bhajan previously. He was roaming around, just performing his chanting and his internal meditation. He wasn't organizing or in... So he suddenly, in service to Krishna, stepped out, we can say, of his comfort zone where he was quite satisfied. But he stepped out in service to please Gopalji. Purport. In the scriptures it is stated, Sat karma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharada. A qualified brahmana must be expert in the occupational duties of a brahmana. His duties are mentioned as 6 brahminical engagements. Partana means that a brahmana must be conversant with the Vedic scriptures. He must also be able to teach others to study the Vedic literatures. This is Partana. He must also be expert in worshipping different deities and in performing the Vedic rituals, yajna. On account of this yajna, the brahmana, being the head of society, performs all the Vedic rituals for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras. This is called yajna. Yajna. Assisting others in performing ceremonies. The remaining 2 items are dan and pratigraha. The brahmana accepts all kinds of contributions, pratigraha, from his followers, namely the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras. But he does not keep all the money. He keeps only as much as required and gives the balance to others in charity, dan. This is the huge difference between the brahmanas previously and the brahmanas today. The brahmanas today will hold the wealth for themselves, for their own, imagining that actually wealth is going to bring increased happiness. So this is the difficulty and situation with the Brahman caste today. Their lack of focused, direct Krishna consciousness. If these material desires have not been purified by a Mahabhagavat, then these material desires are going to take over and direct the public. Then everyone will become greedy, which is the case that we have today. We have to see what is happening in society today. So it's the same also with devotees. Sometimes devotees are inspired in devotion and they will contribute lavishly towards the temples, and at other times they will withhold their money and they will spend it for their own needs, which may be necessary or not necessary, but they'll make that their own decision there. So the principal point is that without focused attention and attraction to Krishna, everything is going to become distorted. This is the heart of it. What is a real devotee? A real devotee is one who's devoted to pleasing the Lord 24/7. In order for such a qualified brahmana to worship the deity, he must be a Vaishnava. Thus the Vaishnava's position is superior to that of the brahmana. For example, this example given by Madhavendra Puri confirms that even though a brahmana may be very expert, he cannot become a priest or servitor of the Vishnu Murti unless he is initiated in Vaishnava mantra. After installing the deity of Gopal, Madhavendra Puri initiated all the brahmanas into Vaishnavism. He then allotted the brahmanas different types of service to the deity, from 4 in the morning until 10 at night, from Mangal Artik to Syanya Artik. There must be at least 5 or 6 brahmanas to take care of the deity. 6 artiks are performed in the temple, and food is frequently offered to the deity, and the prasadam distributed. This is the method of worshipping the deity, according to the rules and regulations set by the predecessors. Our sampradaya belongs to the disciplic succession of Madhavendra Puri, and who belonged to the Madhva Sampradaya. We are in the disciplic succession of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was initiated by Ishwara Puri, a disciple of Madhavendra Puri's. Our sampradaya is therefore called the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. It's actually the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. As such, we must carefully follow in the footsteps of Sri Madhavendra Puri and observe how he installed the Gopal deity on top of the Govardhan hill, how he arranged and performed the Anakut ceremony in only one day, and so forth. Our installation of deities in America and in the wealthy countries of Europe should be carried out in terms of Sri Madhavendra Puri's activities. All the servitors of the deity must be strictly qualified as brahmanas, and specifically must engage in the Vaishnava custom of offering as much prasadam as possible and distributing it to the devotees who visit the temple to see the Lord. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is giving directives here, very clear, on the back of the pastimes of Madhavendra Puri, who performed everything perfectly. And Prabhupada's prayer is that his future disciples will also perform everything perfectly. Text 88.
Punadina Sheshe Prabhu Karaila Uttana Kichu Bhoga Lagaila Karaila Jalapana.
After taking rest, the deity must be awakened at the end of the day, and immediately some food and some water must be offered to him. Krishna's Kaviraj is writing this. This offering is called Vaikali Bhog, food offered at the end of the day. That was the purport. Text 89.
Gopala Prakata Haila Deshe Shabda Haila Asha Pasha Gramer Loka Dekhite Aila.
When it was advertised throughout the country that Lord Gopal had appeared atop Govardhan Hill, all the people from neighbouring villages came to see the deity. Text 90.
Ekeka Dina Ekeka Grame Laila Mangiya Annakuta Kare Sabe Harashit Haya.
One village after another was pleased to beg Madhavendra Puri to allot them one day to perform the Annakut ceremony. Thus, day after day, the Annakut ceremony was performed for some time. So Madhavendra Puri, out of his immense love, he just allowed this Annakut ceremony. It wasn't just a fixed day. He allowed all the villagers. Actually, there were many, many villagers offering their Annakut to Gopal. So text 91.
Ratri Kale Thakurera Karaya Shayana Puri Gosai Kaila Kichu Gavya Bhojana.
Sri Madhavendra Puri did not eat anything throughout the day, but at night, after lying down the deity to take rest, he took a milk preparation. This was his custom. Text 92.
Prata Kale Punate Che Karila Sevana Anna Laya Eka Grame Raila Lokagana.
The next morning, the rendering of service to the deity began again, and people from one village arrived with all kinds of food grains. Text 93.
Anna Drita Dadi Dugda Gramayat Chila Kopalira Age Loka Aniya Darila.
The inhabitants of the village brought to the deity of Gopal as much food grains, ghee, yogurt and milk as they had in their village. Purport. Anna, grihata, dahi, dugda are food grains. Are they? Dahi, food grain?
Yeah, Dadi. Dahi, yeah. Curd. Dadi, it's not curd.
Rocky.
It's considered,
Dadhi.
it's saying
Uh,
Anna, grita, dahi.
Anna, Grita, Dadhi and Dugdha.
What is Dadi?
Dadi is dahi.
It's
Dahi.
curd.
You heard? Anna.
Curd.
Curd, I think curd.
Okay, it's written in English. Yes, it's that word.
So are food grains, ghee, yogurt and milk.
Yeah, it's
Actually, these are the basis of all food. Vegetables and fruits are subsidiary. Hundreds of thousands of preparations can be made out of grains, vegetables, ghee, milk and yogurt. The food offered to Gopal in the Annakut ceremony contained only these 5 ingredients. Only demonic people are attracted to other types of food, which we will not even mention in this connection. We should understand that in order to prepare nutritious food, we require only grains, ghee, yogurt and milk. We cannot offer anything else to the deity. The Vaishnava, the perfect human being, does not accept anything not offered to the deity. People are often frustrated by national food policies, but from the Vedic scriptures we find that if there are sufficient cows and grains, the entire food problem is solved. The Vaishyas, people engaged in agriculture and commerce, are therefore recommended in the Bhagavad Gita to produce grains and give protection to cows. Cows are the most important animal because they produce the miracle food, milk, from which we can prepare ghee and yogurt. So we're seeing the glories of the cow constantly. The perfection of human civilization depends on Krishna consciousness, which recommends deity worship. Preparations made from vegetables, grains, milk, ghee and yogurt are offered to the deity and then distributed. Here we can see the difference between the East and the West. The people who came to see the deity of Gopal brought all kinds of food to offer to the deity. They brought all the food they had in stock, and they came before the deity, not only to accept prasadam for themselves, but to distribute it to others. The Krishna consciousness movement vigorously approves the practice of preparing food, offering it to the deity, and distributing it to the general population. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to call it the secret weapon of the Vaishnavas. When you offer prasadam, you must have all had experiences passing out prasadam and seeing the changes in people's, like even degraded meat eaters in their faces and countenances eating prasadam. I can remember one day being in Russia, and we gave this round little sweet ball from a festival to one of the ladies we were on a 3-day train journey, and there was snow outside, and we stopped at one station, and this lady happened to come right in front of our window, and she was looking at this round sweet ball she'd never seen in her life. She put it in her mouth, and she was a bit grumpy. She was very grumpy. And she took this one sweet ball, and immediately this smile just blossomed on her face. And for the rest of the journey, about a 2-day journey, she was just so sweet. For the whole time she was polite and sensitive to everybody. Prasadam is magical, mystical. It has a direct effect. You can see it when someone is very sinful and fallen and they take prasadam. Then the example is extreme, like this lady I'm talking about, perhaps. Other people, if they're always dharmic, then the prasadam doesn't seem to be so effective. But if someone is adharmic and they take the prasadam, then it can be completely transforming.
ISKCON devotees say it's bullet. ISKCON bullet. I think it's called bullet.
Yeah. Bullet.
Yes.
Simply bullet. Yeah. This activity should be extended universally to stop sinful eating habits as well as other behavior befitting only demons. The devotee has to be smart and appreciate. Sometimes the devotees don't appreciate that this is Kali Yuga, and it's the age of the demons. It's their age. The demons are flourishing. They're everywhere. They're in all the governments. Anywhere where there's money, Kali is there. Where there's money or gold. And that's the governments who are hungry for that. The simple farming people, they are perhaps purer. But the general management of the earth, the world, is run by Rakshasas and demons. And we should understand that and not be sentimental about it. Not think, oh, it's all nice and rosy. It's not. And we should diligently counteract that with our practice of chanting. And then we will be totally secure internally. Externally, we'll have to just, adjust whatever the situations are. But internally, we'll be assured that our path is going to be 100% victorious. There will never be any difficulty in the devotee's life. We won't perish. We just discussed all that. A demonic civilization will never bring peace within the world. Since eating is the first necessity in human society, those engaged in solving the problems of preparing and distributing food should take lessons from Madhavendra Puri and execute the Anakut ceremony. In Satya Yuga, the life force is maintained in the bones, just like Hiranyakashipu. And in Treta Yuga, the life force is maintained in blood. And in Dwapara Yuga, the life force is maintained in the nervous system. And in Kali Yuga, the life force is maintained in food. You have to eat to live in Kali Yuga. If you don't eat, you die in Kali Yuga. But in previous ages, that wasn't the case. You could be a breatharian very easily. You didn't have to eat necessarily. But in this age, we We have to eat, otherwise we die. So if we just eat prasadam and we distribute prasadam, that will be the success of our life. When the people take to eating only prasadam offered to the deity, all the demons will be turned into Vaishnavas. Prabhupada is so positive. When the people are Krishna conscious, naturally the government will be also. So the people, their hearts will influence the governments or overthrow them. A Krishna conscious man is always a very liberal well-wisher to everyone. When such men head the government, the people will certainly be sinless. They will no longer be disturbing demons. And then only that a peaceful condition will prevail in society. We are so anxious to bring peace to our minds that gets so speeded up with the pollution of the age and these cell phones in particular. They just crunch time, they take away our time and life. All of a sudden the day's finished and you feel like you've done nothing because you've been so involved in the electronics, etc., and the electronic effect on the mind. This is all the wonderful workings of Kali Maharaj. He's just degrading society faster and faster and faster and faster. We've seen in very brief spans, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, how much more degraded things have become. So there has to be some urgency in our practice of Krishna consciousness. This greed, and this greed is the key to actually accessing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Why has Mahaprabhu manifested the highest possible gift to mankind within the darkest age of Kali? It's because in this darkest age of Kali, men can become desperate for spirituality because the external pushings and pollution is so extreme. In India sometimes it doesn't seem so extreme, so actually they're not so greedy. I've noticed sometimes in the mats, the Indian devotees are quite happy, they get their chapatis every day and they hear some Bhagavatam class and they're chanting, but they're not intensely greedy to actually get to the conclusion, to the goal. They're not on fire. But many Westerners, they are on fire and they perform all kinds of tapasyas to actually achieve the conclusion. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam yati talabite tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritya alabhyate. This lobya, this greed, is the reason why Mahaprabhu has appeared. He's giving Raganuga Bhakti. And Raganuga Bhakti, the qualification for that is greed. The qualification for Vaidhi is fear, the rules and regulations. So we have to see clearly the distinctions here. Don't overlap everything. See the distinctions. So, text 94.
Purvadina praya vipra karila randhana teche annakuta gopal karila bhojana.
The next day, almost as before, there was an Annakut ceremony. All the brahmanas prepared foods and Gopal accepted them. So this is most wonderful. We can see the flow coming from Gopal to Madhavendra Puri, to distributing it to the people, and everyone become totally joyful in their service to Krishna, which is the principal sadhya for humanity, is to become completely devoted. Jivara Surupoi Krishnera Nityadas, that's service to Krishna.
YouTube has stopped.
So text 95, huh?
YouTube has stopped.
YouTube has stopped. And Facebook's looking a bit darkish, but
It's running.
it's running, okay. So, text 95.
Rajavasi lokera Krishna sahaja piriti Gopalera sahaja priti Rajavasi priti.
Translation: the ideal place to execute Krishna consciousness is Brajabhumi, or Vrindavan, where the people are naturally inclined to love Krishna and Krishna is naturally inclined to love them. Purport: in the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, it is said, Yeyata mam prapadyante tam sataiva pajamyaham. There is a responsive cooperation between the Supreme Lord Krishna and his devotees. The more a devotee sincerely loves Krishna, the more Krishna reciprocates. So much so that a highly advanced devotee can talk with Krishna face to face. Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The actual mission of human life is to understand Krishna and return home back to Godhead. That's all we have to understand. That is the ultimate mission of human life, is to be engaged in service to the Lord. Therefore, one who is sincerely engaged in the service of the Lord with love and faith can talk with Krishna and receive instructions by which he can speedily return home back to Godhead. Returning home back to Godhead means, in this life, arranging circumstances in my life that at every moment I can be engaged in Krishna's service. If I'm working at a regular job, I can be trying to understand how I can support devotees, or how I can support my temple, or how I can support my devotional practice with the money from that. Otherwise, what's the point of working? You'll be just collecting money for your own enjoyment. If you're collecting money to come to India, then that's a very wonderful service to do. Today, many scholars defend the science of religion, and they have some conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But religion without practical experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no religion at all. This is like saying Bhav. Bhav Bhakti means your connection and relationship with Krishna, that mood. If your sadhan bhakti is not being focused on Bhav Bhakti, then your sadhan bhakti is like zero. What is the benefit of your sadhan if it's not being focused on Bhav? Bhav means your relationship with Krishna. And what is the description of Bhav? Moksha lukuta krit. That means I look with disgust on the idea and conception of liberation. If I'm performing my sadhan thinking, oh, I just want to be shanti, I just want a nice place, I just want to be happy in this world, that's like liberation. And that's not the goal of life. Then we'll just stay in the Vaidhi track. But if the Bhav Bhakti is being focused on prema, what is the nature of Bhav Bhakti? Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prem Suryavam Samyabhak Ruchibis Vichar Mishnu Shud Ashu Bhav Uchyate. That Prem is the Bhav is the ray of sun of Prem. So Bhav is a ray of sun from Prem. And that Prem is described in the last part of that verse that I'm quoting now. The first part is Klesh Agni Shubhada. This is the sadhan bhakti. Klesh Agni. The fire of your sinful life or your suffering is incinerated. Klesh Agni Shubhada. And this is very auspicious. And then Moksha Lukuta Krit Sudurlabha. This is very, very rare. But what is Prem? Sandra Ananda Visheshatma Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. Krishna Akashani Chasa means Krishna himself is attracted to that devotee who's performing Bhav Bhakti. He's attracted to it himself. Of course, we can't reach Prem in this body. We can only come to the stage of Bhav Bhakti. You're not too hot there by the fire? It's not burning you?
No, I have another fire in front of me.
Okay.
Heating there.
Be careful of the fire. You're sitting close to it. Maybe turn that heater off, Rasamanjari.
It's okay.
It's too
Not
hot.
too hot, right?
Okay, so here, there's a length. Oh, I'm reading the purport here. Yes. But religion without practical experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no religion at all. Srimad Bhagavatam describes this in the form of cheating. Religion means abiding by the orders of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one is not qualified to talk with him and take lessons from him, how can one understand the principles of religion? Thus, talks of religion or religious experience without Krishna consciousness are a useless waste of time. Very beautiful injection of Shuddha Bhakti by Prabhupada, just focusing on Krishna and our service to Krishna. This is the whole mood of this Annakut and this Gopal festival, this wonderful pastime of Madhavendra Puri. And remember, this pastime is being described directly by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself to his devotees as he's traveling to Jagannath Puri. So it's doubly potent hearing it described by Mahaprabhu. So we'll stop now and continue on Monday, next Monday. So we'll stop on text 96. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Gaur Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Gaur Hare Bol, Gaur Premanandi, Hare Hare. Jaidev Goswami ki jai, Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Madhavendra Puri Pad ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavaivacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Hari Bol.